ladies and jellyfish, wumbles of all sizes, welcome back to Ask Bean's videos. Today I'm reviewing an episode of Mr. Bean the Animated Series, because why not? If you don't know this show, shame on you. You must not have seen the thousands of Mr. Bean re-uploads desperately trying to get ad revenue from the literal hundreds of millions of views that these videos get. I mean, if you haven't seen an episode, you must not have been using YouTube very much these past couple of years. Today we are taking a look at one of my favorite episodes that I've loved since I was a kid, Car Troubles. And along the way we're gonna find out if this show is good, bad, or just run of the mill. Let's just bean into it. Before we start off with the episode, I just want to comment on this theme song. I obviously won't be able to show it due to copyright, but I'm sure you've heard it before. It's very simple and seems extremely fitting for a show like this. The song is nice and iconic, and it shows all three characters in a simple and quick way. That's all there is to it. The episode starts off with Bean driving his car and stopping at a red light. We see his pet Teddy, who's a stuffed bear, sitting in the front seat with a classic Mr. Bean tune in the background. Oh yeah, get used to that song if you're watching this show. It is just as annoying as the Johnny Test whip crack thing. Before we go anywhere, let's talk about what you've probably already noticed, the animation. For 2003, the quality and rendering is fine, there's nothing wrong technically, and the movement is good. While the later seasons look way worse in the animation department, these episodes seem to do the trick pretty well. But the only flaw is something a bit more aesthetic. Mr. Bean the Animated Series uses very bold outlines around every character and some objects. So when Mr. Bean does something like hold the steering wheel, for instance, his outline goes into the object, and instead of maintaining the outline, it surrounds the object he's holding. I know it's a little confusing, but just look at his hand in this clip right here. Something else that is a little jarring is the patterns on certain things. For example, this guy wants to race Bean at the light, and his scarf is a rigid piece of cloth, where the outline doesn't change due to the wind, but stays in the same place with the outline only moving. It's kind of like what YouTubers or small budgeted projects tend to do to save money, but this clearly had a slightly bigger budget than any of those kinds of things. Another example was in another episode where Bean was pulling his blanket on him on his bed. Instead of the blanket pattern moving with him, it stays stationary and only the outline increases in size. It's really weird. Anyway, moving on, Bean and this rich guy challenge to race each other, and Bean's car, being the pile of garbage that it is, can't handle it. Unable to fix the problem, Bean pushes the car for a bit, then pulls a magical rope out of the magical trunk, and connects his car to another car to pull him home. But haha, it was an ice cream truck and it stops every 2 millimeters. Get it? Eventually, Bean gets home in a surprisingly well-paced bit, and takes out every single compartment in his car. Like, Bean, my man, you could've just called a mechanic. You didn't have to yeet everything out all night. He sees that the problem was just the wire that was a little cut, so he tapes it up and puts everything back in perfectly over the course of the night. He puts in the key, and the car still doesn't work. So he somehow pushes it to Dickie Diddle's car garage, great name by the way, through probably bumper to bumper morning rush traffic to greet this young and trustworthy gentleman. Obviously this guy's a scam artist, so he tells Bean that he has to crush the car into a cube because it's just not working anymore. Bean, being the shallow bloke that he is, see I use British terminology, accepts and goes to buy some flowers to put on the car. Instead of waiting to watch the car get crushed and then leave, he puts the keys in the car and leaves crying. Obviously, it was no twist that this guy was a scam artist this whole time, and he wipes the little part in the engine and the car now works perfectly. Look, I understand that this is cartoon logic, but how improbable is this freaking scene? Anyway, we cut back to Bean walking down the street and mumbling to himself as he walks past an antique shop and sees his hot air balloon and a sailor hat. Left without a car, he buys it and takes it home to fix it up. He uses Mrs. Wickett's knickers and some other clothes to fix up the hot air balloon in a nice montage-esque sequence, which I actually like quite a bit. I have to say that this episode really escalates as the episode progresses. Bean colors the balloon and fills up the bottom part with all sorts of stuff, and as a kid I was really into this episode. So basically, when I was a kid, I was really into crafts, and I would always glue and tape popsicle sticks and leftover garbage together to make stuff like cars or little trinkets, and watching episodes of Mr. Bean like this always inspired me to make these sorts of things. Like that episode where Bean turns a wagon he has into a car, or something along that line. So for this part in the video, I was just going to show you guys a picture of this thing that I made when I was a kid. But I had so much fun reminiscing about stuff I did when I was a kid that I decided to shoot a little short skit in the middle of this video. Excuse if the audio sounds bad or whatever, I'm doing this on my phone, so you can see I had a lot of fun with this. You can see all the popsicle sticks up. It's falling apart by the edges here, but you know, very rigid kind of thing. These are all popsicle sticks of ice cream that I must have eaten. There's like a magnet, it's all sorts of garbage mashed together. Here, if I put it down, actually, see, there's this piece of gum that, like, it's like a storage unit. Oh, and this is fun. Actually, if you remove this little paper, give me a second. It's hard. There's actually like a little hole you can put your goods in, you know? Don't take that the wrong way. There's tons of like little pieces of Lego I glued on. This, I got like one of these terribly sugarous things once out of like a vending machine, and I loved it so much that I kept it. And like there's like this whole thing that goes into the hole in here. Yeah, I was a special kid. Back to the video. Obviously, I grew out of that phase, and I'm more into filmmaking now. One of the reasons I grew up with this show was because it was so creative, and as a kid, I really ate that stuff up, even if it defied the laws of physics 20 times. Bean pulls up an anchor from the ground, ties Teddy to a bike, turns on a stove and to add heat to the balloon, and even puts on a sailor's hat as if he's the captain of the Titanic or something. I love it! When Bean flies over the house in Mrs. Wicket, she drops her cat's milk everywhere, and probably the funniest scene in the episode. Bean's smug and oblivious face throughout the scene is just a cherry on top. Bean goes so high eventually that he even says hi to some birds and even cooks a hot dog on a stove. What a legend. As the hot dog and the pan fall down by accident, they hit the famous, or rather infamous, blue car. That's always had a reputation if you're a casual watcher of Mr. Bean in general. Then as a mom is getting her kid a balloon, the kid floats into the air as Mr. Bean saves him and brings him down. Wait, so does this happen on a regular basis? Do kids die from balloon floating in the Mr. Bean universe? Surely if it happened right as Mr. Bean was flying over them, it happens on a regular basis. And I just love this scene so much that I'm just gonna show you. After that hilariously close scene comes along, Bean pulls out his binoculars and spots the same guy who swindled his car driving on the very same road that Bean is above. What are the odds? As Bean gets closer to hook on the car, he goes through a tunnel. Right before Bean crashes, he cuts off a shirt full of sand that's supposed to be a weight. Funny, because in a previous scene there was only one shirt, but now there's two. Anyway, after Bean gets past the tunnel, he pulls out his anchor and miraculously ties it to the back of the car, slowly lifting up the car into the air. Now that's the face of a hardworking man. The anchor somehow doesn't come off, and the guy opens the door, hanging off it, and the fact that his fat body hasn't ripped off the car door is a mystery in and of itself. Bean's brain somehow goes from 0 to infinity as he drops his other sand shirt on Dickie, dropping him into the pond below. And a couple birds poop all over him. Beautiful. Bean salutes to the birds, descends down onto his house, and lets his hot air balloon go. It's a nice scene, but a very financially rough scene for Bean. I mean, he just lost a stove, a bike, an anchor, and a hot air balloon. But it's all good because Bean got his beloved car back. Cut to later as the same guy from the beginning somehow ends up at the light again, and they decide to race again. Bean's car loses at first, but the hot air balloon lands on the guy and makes Bean win. A nice ending, if not a forced one. And that was Mr. Bean the Animated Series, Car Troubles. This is a nice show, but there are a lot of issues with it. The plot is really forced in a lot of scenes, the animation can be poor at times, and the characters can change miraculously in a matter of minutes. But was it an enjoyable watch? Sure, why not? And I guess if I loved it so much as a kid, then it's all good. I'd give this episode a 6 out of 10 and recommend it as the first episode for any new watchers, even though this is a season 2 episode. If you enjoyed my review, be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more content, follow me on Twitter and join my Discord server for more fun, and I'll see you ladies and jellyfish in the next one. Ciao!